The backstage waiting area buzzed with nervous energy. Under the glow of the studio lights, semifinalists sat in a row of chairs, some clutching their instruments, others pacing, whispering silent prayers. For many, this was the first time they had ever been so close to their dreams. Maria, a 17-year-old singer from Texas, held a picture of her late mother in her hand. Her trembling fingers brushed across the frame as she whispered, "This is for you, Mom." Next to her, Jamal, a street dancer who had grown up in foster care, practiced small footwork patterns, repeating them like a mantra, trying to silence the pounding of his heart. The producers moved around with headsets, calling names, giving last-minute instructions, but all the semifinalists could hear was the echo of their own fears and hopes. "I can't believe we made it this far," whispered Lily, a pianist from New York, her hands resting on the worn keys of her portable keyboard. "Do you ever feel like this isn't real?" Jamal laughed softly, shaking his head. "Every second. But maybe that's what makes it worth it." The moment the door opened, and the red stage lights spilled into the room, everyone fell silent. One by one, dreams were about to collide with reality. They weren't just contestants anymore, they were storytellers, each about to reveal a piece of their soul. Maria stepped onto the stage, the audience clapping gently as the judges leaned forward. She placed the picture of her mother on the piano before her, almost as if to remind herself she wasn't alone. Her voice carried the raw ache of loss, trembling at first, then finding strength as she reached the chorus. She wasn't just singing, she was pouring every unsaid word, every unshared moment, every tear that never fell. The camera zoomed in on the crowd, people wiping their eyes, couples holding hands, strangers leaning forward as if her pain was theirs. By the time the final note faded, the silence in the room was deafening. Then came the eruption of applause, the standing ovation, the judges with tears in their eyes. "Maria," Simon began softly, his usual sternness replaced with vulnerability, "that wasn't just a performance. That was love in its purest form. Your mother would be so proud." Maria's eyes welled up as she looked skyward. In that moment, it wasn't about winning or losing. It was about keeping her mother's memory alive through song. And she knew she had done just that. Jamal had no props, no flashy lights, no background dancers. Just himself, the stage, and a story carved deep into his bones. As the beat dropped, his body moved like water and fire at the same time, fluid yet fierce. Every spin, every jump, every pause spoke of nights sleeping on cold floors, of learning to fight pain with rhythm, of finding family in the echo of music when no one else was there. Mid-performance, he fell to his knees, clutching his chest, before rising again with explosive energy, his eyes burning with defiance. It wasn't choreography, it was survival turned into art. The judges sat in stunned silence, watching a young man transform tragedy into beauty. Heidi whispered, "This is more than dance, it's his life." As Jamal finished, collapsing on stage with sweat glistening like stars on his skin, the crowd erupted. People screamed his name, chanting, clapping, stomping. "I've been waiting my whole life for someone to see me," Jamal said through tears. "Tonight, I feel seen." Lily wheeled her small keyboard onto the stage, her hair tucked behind her ear, her eyes fixed on the instrument that had saved her countless times. Born with a hearing impairment, she had been told she'd never fully experience music. But instead of giving up, she taught herself to feel it, through vibration, through memory, through her own heartbeat. She closed her eyes and began to play, her fingers gliding across the keys with grace and fire. The melody was haunting, a piece she had written for the nights she cried, wondering if the world would ever hear her voice without words. The hall was silent, no whispers, no coughs, no movement. Just Lily and her music. The notes seemed to float above the crowd, wrapping them in invisible threads of hope and resilience. When she ended, tears streamed down her face. She had played not for the judges, not for the votes, but for the little girl who once believed she wasn't enough. Sophia wiped her eyes. Lily, you didn't just play notes, you gave us your soul. I think you just reminded the whole world that music isn't only heard. It's felt. After the night's performances, the semifinalists gathered once more backstage. This time, there was no nervous chatter, only a quiet understanding that something extraordinary had happened. Maria clutched Jamal's hand. Jamal hugged Lily. The room was filled with laughter, tears, and the kind of silence that only exists when hearts are full. They had each come with different stories, grief, survival, defiance, resilience, but together, they had created something bigger than themselves. As the cameras rolled for the final group interview, the host asked, "What inspires your journey?" Maria lifted her picture. Love. Jamal placed a hand on his chest. Survival. Lily smiled through tears. Hope. And together, they said, the dream of being heard. For them, the semifinals weren't the end. It was the beginning of a lifetime where their stories, their music, and their courage would echo long after the stage lights dimmed. Because inspiration wasn't just their fuel, it was the gift they had given to the world.